Hey there, everyone. How are you doing? We are live. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the Impact Tribe Live. This is where we meet, greet, and learn about leaders who are having a positive impact on the world. We're streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. I am your host, Ashley Bright, the Message Fixer, and today I am joined by my friend and an amazing human being, Dave One. Dave, welcome.
Hey Ashley, thanks for having me here. I'm super pumped to be here with you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, we go back, it feels like a long time, but it's really, I don't know, a handful of months. But we're both part of the Iron Tribe, which I think is an amazing group of human beings. So shout out to the Iron Tribe. And I've just enjoyed what you are bringing to the table for people and your new approach. Well, I don't say new, but I think a more effective, more nuanced approach to how people think about finance, how people think about money. And so, with that, would you mind sharing with us what you're up to and who you serve there at Dave One and Co?
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. The financial stress is through the roof. The latest data that came out from Brightplan was 91% of employees, which is pretty much everybody,
I was going to say.
are financially stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the the solution that is on the table right now is all focused on the practical aspects of money and the practical aspects of personal finance. Like, you know, some of the common ones are spend less than you make sure you choose the right investments, and make sure you jump on a budget. Now, while all those things are important, they don't really address why the individual is in that position in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so the solution has to be from an emotional and behavioral angle versus a practical angle, and that's what we do here.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, and you shared this quite a bit in different conversations. That it's very much like dieting or something, where there's a lot of logic, like
Mm-hmm.
expend more than you take in, very logical. But as everyone out there can attest, you know whether you're dieting or trying to stay fit or trying to change your lifestyle, it's incredibly hard. And I think obviously there's a connection to something about your mindset and that deep rooted trauma or challenges and things you associate with that. And I mean, money, come on, man. There's a lot of territory to mine there when it comes to what's going on. And so I'm curious, Dave, how did you kind of come about sort of to this? How did you come to this as your business and your focus, which we've already pointed out is different from that very logical, practical kind of like budgeting and saving money, etc.
Yeah. So this all stemmed from the pain that I experienced over the course of, I mean, the majority of my life,
Mm-hmm.
and it all stemmed from um, the painful experiences that I was like deeply intimate with. I don't like using
Mm-hmm.
that word, but like I was like really familiar with it when my parents were raising my brother and my parents just struggled left and right. And they were immigrants to South Korea. My dad came here when he was like 26 years old. My mom came here in her early teens, and they just struggled a lot. And to avoid what my parents went through post college, I started to budget like a madman and save as much money as I can. And through the course of some like tragic life events, I realized that while those look good on paper, they still made me feel terrible inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still very anxious, felt like nothing I had was good enough, felt like all the numbers and the tracking, while important, still didn't solve the underlying deep rooted issue that I was facing and still felt inside of me. And so that's when I started to do a lot of deep inner work and understand what that was. And then I began to overcome a lot of these deep rooted barriers that were in my way. And that
Mm-hmm.
took like 6 years for me to do.
Wow.
And I didn't know there was professional help out there and whatnot. But once I was able to kind of understand that process, having gone through it myself in my own life, I now have created a framework to help people overcome the financial stress that they go through, that they are experiencing, and that looks different for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And but I believe the underlying emotions that all humans face are somewhat similar. Um, and but yeah, then that's I've taken that framework and I now speak on it, give it to organizations, and work with the workforce and stuff like that. So it all rooted from my upbringing and the pain that I had to experience, and then overcoming that, and now sharing that with everybody else.
Yeah, it's powerful. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that because I think everybody has some relationship with money. I know for myself, ironically, I didn't realize until after the fact that we didn't have a lot of money, but we lived as though we did, which can
Yep,
create its own problems in terms of, living beyond your means and getting into debt. And so everybody has a different angle and a different way they're affected by it.
yep.
And so I'm curious, you mentioned you work with organizations, you do speaking. What are the types of individuals or the teams that you're working with, and what does working in that look like? What's that framework?
Yeah, so I'll kind of explain to you what I've seen in the marketplace now, what's being offered out there, and how I believe it's not as effective as organizations want it to be. But what's
Hmm.
out there right now is essentially a big calculator, right? And plug in your income, plug in your expenses, and here's how much you should save, Ashley.
Yeah.
Well, I I think people know that, or if they don't know it, they can learn it very quickly. Or they have the courses. Like here's some courses on whatever platform the courses are hosted on, and now you're going to go through all these educational content. Well, the participation rate for those courses are in the single digits, right? So what's out there is not working, and what's out there is also not working because they're focused on the wrong thing.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
for such a personal topic like this, you need a personal touch. And so the method we have here is keynote speaking, wide reach,
Hmm.
exposure is wide. And then from there, organizations may resonate with what you're speaking about. And then I come in and do workshops with the workforce, whether that's in person or virtual. I prefer in person,
Hmm.
but both options are available. And we just go over a series of workshops that focuses on that subconscious barrier that's impacting you, not just in your money, but in every other area in life. And I'm bringing that to light. And so once you're able to overcome it, you could just see that trajectory of your life just kind of pivot in a different direction, because you're able to address some of those deep rooted underlying emotions and behaviors that were not just, like I said, driving your money behaviors, but driving everything else as well.
Yeah, so it's a multifaceted win to a certain extent. I mean, you can come into it from the perspective of financial challenges, money stress, but it can really help open up a lot of other things that are going on in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe, just from observing my own life and the lives of others, that money is the great revealer.
I
We
was
tie we tie
Yes.
so much of our worth, our sense of identity, and even our power to money.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so if you're able to like really look at that and deconstruct it and look at like slice everything up, you're going to be like, "Oh wow, I have this fear, I have this greed or all these emotions," and you're going to see all that in other areas in your life. So I think money is like a really good blueprint for you to be able to take a step back, zoom out, and be like, okay, here's what I have to work on. Here's the emotion that was holding me back. If you don't know what that is, it's important to look at your money because it's going to be revealed there.
Absolutely. And so I'm curious because obviously we were both part of or we are part of the Iron Tribe, and a big shout out to Anthony who is joining us. Thank you for being here, my friend. So I'm curious, do you see a difference in the way men approach this subject versus women, or their willingness to talk about it? I'm curious from that perspective.
Society will say women want more security, control, and men typically are a little more like, um, they're they are willing to take more risks
Hmm.
potentially.
Hmm.
But and honestly, I think it goes either way. That's what they say, and you could buy into it or not. But
Yeah.
I've seen both, honestly, and each individual person, whether male or female, have a history with their parents, with their upbringing, that really impact, like their disposition with money, and how they, like, the patterns and behaviors that they have formed and shaped over the years as adults, right? And so I think that's the limiting factor. I think that's the common denominator
Mm.
versus here's what
Hmm.
society says about men and women. And yes, like, those are out there and there's studies on that too, but everybody's individual journeys is they're different, and you have
Hmm.
to be able to understand that from an individual perspective. So
Yeah.
um so it's all based on the person
Yep.
and their individual journey.
Yeah, and you've spoken about wanting to work in person with people versus virtual and how that's more effective, and I can definitely see that with this topic. It's, I mean, just I keep referencing the Iron Tribe because it's so top of mind for me, and I think for both of us. And it's, I mean, here's a group of people that, it's all men, yet the challenges they're facing, the way they're handling it, the way they're responding, are vastly different and very personal. And to your point about everybody thinks about money differently, there's a different influence. Wow.
And
Uh,
I don't want society, I don't want what culture says or what society says to put a boundary around you.
mhm.
you know just because we're supposed to think this way, or I'm supposed to think that way, or this, like, you're putting yourself in a box.
Yep.
And I think that's not healthy. I think it's important to understand your true self and be able to express yourself in a certain way. And if there's limitations, it's important to dig deep and look into that. But don't let what society says dictate how you should behave.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that right there is a big onion to peel back because it's so, there's so many facets to that in terms of how we show up, and it's wild. I appreciate all the people that I'm meeting on LinkedIn that are starting to talk about this, whether it's money, whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's, there's a whole angle from every perspective about how this is affecting people, and so you're tackling the big one. I think money is the big one. So I'm curious, how long have you been in business specifically focused on this challenge and helping people overcome it?
This has been a journey, Ashley. I kind of stumbled into this uh, just over 8 years ago when I was teaching at the Air Force Academy, and
Mm,
I got to spend the last 5 minutes of class teaching the nuts and bolts of personal finance to hundreds and hundreds of students at the Air Force Academy. And even though I didn't have a business back then, it started my journey of, like, being in this career field.
hmm.
And it just grew and grew and grew. I initially started to After that, I started to help people get out of credit card debt using the nuts and bolts of personal finance. uh, Please spend less than you make. And then once I figured out that a lot of the people I did help get out of debt got, like, they got right back into debt again,
Hmm.
I took a step back and I'm like, okay, something's off. Something's not working. And that's when I had to go through my own journey and put that framework together. So um, it's been three and a half years.
Hmm.
And within that 3.5 year window, I've made some iterations like any good entrepreneurial individual would do,
Hmm.
but multiple iterations to get to where I am now. And speaking of, like, entrepreneurship and, like, that journey, I believe that if you don't go through door number one, you won't know what door number two is. And so in order to know where door number 2 is, you have to go through door number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And just that journey of growth, stepping back, falling, learning from your mistakes, and keep growing. It's got to where I am today. So long-winded answer to your question, but it's been a few years, and now I've pivoted from working with individuals about a few years ago to now bringing that value to high-functioning teams and corporate America.
So you can have more reach, you can have more impact, and help more people ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley, if I had to share with you my vision, which is
Please.
like the overarching like goal that I want to like strive after. One of my friends said that a really effective vision doesn't have you in it. Because if you're in the vision, and let's say your time has passed on this earth, now what? Right? So it goes beyond you. And so my vision is to actually have people achieve emotional freedom first, which is like being able to release the emotional anchor that is holding them down, holding them back, so they could experience true financial freedom. That's my vision for this world. And in order to do that, I have to be able to continuously be in growth mode. And I have to be able to continuously think, how can I get my message out there to the masses? And, I learned a lot coaching one-on-one. I learned a ton. These people have shared very personal stories and experiences and pain points with me. And I've been able to use that to put something together in order to now send to the masses. So it's been quite a journey, and yeah.
That's great. I mean, and I know that you did a TED Talk not too long ago. I'm curious because you talked about reaching the masses and communicating your message and having that long-term impact and value. What was that experience like, and how did you prepare for that?
Boy, so I've wanted to do a TED Talk for a few years now, and once I was on the TED website. There's like TEDx events that are forecasted for the following year. I looked at a bunch of them, and honestly, I kind of had rings around where I live right now. So I'm like, okay, 4 to 6 hour radius of where I live, I'm going to look at all the TEDx events and be like, all right, I want to see what's out there. And they make it really hard for you to actually apply. They don't give you much information, but they did give me enough information to kind of jump into it. So they gave me organizer names. So I was like scouring these people on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, all these things. And I sent out like messages, got applications, and I ended up getting into one of them. And once I got accepted into one, I hired a speaking coach, and he was able to help me with my message and the delivery. And honestly, this is what I heard from, before I did the TED Talk, was people spent literally full-time, like 3 months full-time prepping for the TED Talk. And I could vouch that was the case for me too.
Yeah.
I spent so much mental energy into my TED Talk. I was putting my head down as I'm trying to go to bed. I'm like, I'm not going to go to bed until I say the full speech in my head. I'm in the shower, and I'm like, I'm going to say the speech out loud, and I'm not going to get out of the shower until I say my speech. Just like I'm driving to a business meeting and I'm saying the speech in my head. Like, it's just like full time. Like, you're living it, you're breathing it, you're sleeping with it, everything.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, I mean, just like crafting my message, crafting my story, and it was well worth it. I don't know if I would do it again, but it was well worth it. And I just thoroughly enjoyed the experience, and doing something that so much of the population just hasn't done. And so I'm proud of myself for doing that too.
That's great. And I mean, it speaks to what you mentioned earlier about growth mindset. You have to kind of put yourself in those situations that you have to stretch or reach for. And I'm curious, so that was it sounds like a pretty rigorous experience. And as you said, it was kind of top of mind for most of that 3 months. How did that set you up for, because I know you do a lot of public speaking in general now, Did that help you with the future speaking opportunities? Do you have a little bit? Do you sleep better now before you go out to your next speaking gig?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it was my launching pad, and it gave me so much confidence to speak full time.
Hmm.
Speak and coach full time. So coaching kind of happens like that's like step number two. Speaking is like step number one. It's given me so much confidence, and doing a TED talk is not easy, and showing up on that stage and standing on that red dot with the lights on you. I mean, your heart's just racing,
I'll
and
bet.
there's only like 50 people in the crowd, 60
Uh-huh.
people in the crowd. I mean, like that was my experience.
Hmm.
And it wasn't the crowd size. It was like I've spoken to crowds with hundreds and hundreds of people, but this was something. It was just different.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I've been speaking for almost 3 years now, but like this helped me build the confidence to like make that pivot and like take it full time
Hmm.
in regards to speaking. And um, it's helped me gain the credibility. Not that my video went viral and all that other stuff, but it's something that I use now. It's like another feather in my cap whenever I go out and speak. So it's been really good.
Absolutely. And I mean, I mean, my thing is communication and public speaking. That's what I help people with. And so building that comfort, that flexibility to, as we say, flex that muscle as you get more comfortable with it,
Yeah.
it's a game changer because now, as you said, it's that rigorous. It's as you said, I wouldn't do it again, but now you've been set up for the future opportunities. And the thing that I always talk about is if you have something valuable to share, which
Mhm.
you clearly do, and I think so many people in our orbit do, being able to get out there and share it, and as I say, attract attention, attract resources, and attract allies to help you do more. You talked about wanting to have that long-term impact. And wow, it's, I always say when I'm on stage, I feel like I'm in flow. There's a lot of anxiety leading up to it, and there's the afterwards where you're like, did I do this? Could I have done this better? But there's something about when you're just there and you're in it and
Mhm.
you're feeling it and it's your intent and your purpose. I can relate. It's such a good
I, I
good
get
feeling.
I get so much energy from it. I just have like I don't know. I get a ton of energy from it. Um, but I think the mindset going onto the stage is vitally important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I used to be in the military for a long time. I went into corporate America afterwards and had successful careers in both. And the reason why I departed my 9 to 5 and became an entrepreneur full time is because I realized how much of an impact this stress had on me. And once I was
Mm-hmm.
able to put that framework together over a course of 6 years, I'm like looking around and I'm like, holy crap, there's so many other people going through this. And so whenever I speak on stage, I think the mindset of I'm doing this because I love the audience. I love my message and I'm here because I genuinely care about people's health and well-being and I want to really help people is the mindset to have.
Mm-hmm.
If I had the mindset of I'm doing this because of my ego and me, it's not going to work, right? And people are going to see right through that. And um, so I'm really grateful for. It was painful, but I'm really grateful for that for that journey that I went through over that time period. And now I'm seeing something that I cannot unsee.
Yeah,
And
it's
so now I'm on a mission, and I'll be on this mission for life.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I want to welcome Jason Barnaby. Just joined us, and he said that he was fortunate to be one of the 50 in that TED moment out there rooting for you in the darkness.
No, I love Jason. It was my first time meeting Jason um, at in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great. And our relationship has not been the same since. So it's only been better.
That's great. So we've talked a lot about stress and the challenges of leading up to this talk and then all the benefits and the confidence. I'm curious, what do you do when you are not on stage, when you're not running your business? What do you do for fun? What brings you joy? How do you recharge?
So I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and another baby on the way here in about 3 months. So
What you have done?
my time is filled with family
Hmm.
and spending time with my girls, and my wife stays at home with the girls, so I'm really grateful for that. And so my time is spent with that. My time is spent with my local community and the church here.
Hmm.
My time is spent with the friends that I have in my other circle, which is my online community, people like yourself, the Outlier Project, Iron Tribe. Um, and so I have like different circles. They have overlaps here and there, but that's a lot of my time is spent on that. Outside of that, I love sports.
Hmm.
Love college football. So I love going to games. Love watching games. I love baseball. I love traveling. A little bit difficult with a 4 and 2-year-old,
I was
but
gonna say.
I love traveling. I love exploring different parts of the country. I've been to 47 states.
Oh wow.
I got 3 more to go, and yeah, I just love exploring and meeting new people and hearing their stories and why they do what they do, and what ticks them off and what motivates them and everything. Um, so that's pretty much my life right now,
Yeah.
and
That
yeah,
sounds pretty awesome. I mean, having that support system at home, being a parent, I know what it's like to have young kids. Mine are teenagers now. That's a whole other angle of things, a whole other
yep,
perspective. But it's the hardest job, but it's the most rewarding. And I 100% agree that then the outside community and the people that you're meeting and hearing about what they're going through and helping them. I saw this great quote the other day. They were saying that, without pain, there is no story.
hmm,
And so I think we've all had those challenges in whatever sphere of life. And so being able to connect and hear those stories and build those relationships is so powerful. And I can see that recharging and keeping you motivated, even when you are probably sleep deprived and busy and feeling it. I'm just reading one of the comments here. What did Jason say? Um, oh, he says you're Enneagram 7. You love everything. So
yep.
there you go.
Yep. I I get energy from people, and Jason understands that. And
Yeah.
clearly when I speak on stage, and when people are tuned in and responsive to what I'm saying and the message that I'm trying to deliver, I have so much energy out there, and that's essentially my coffee. I love coffee, but I don't need it, and I get my fuel from the energy that's in the room. And
Yeah.
if I could
I
host a
love it.
if I could host a party at my house with 75 people, I would do it every week.
I
Um,
love it.
my
I
wife
love
and
it.
kids would probably kill me for that, but I would do it.
Well, and I mean what you're touching on is something I've always felt, which is despite the fact that we are just overwhelmed with technology and data and information and our day-to-day lives are so busy,
Mhm.
there's something reassuring about how it still drives us back to wanting that human connection and being inspired and intrigued and empathetic.
Mhm.
And I think it's so important these days more than ever. And it's great to hear that you are fueling from that. I'm curious because I have Jason, actually, we were just chatting and he sent me a link to do the Enneagram test because I haven't done this yet, so the assessment.
Oh, you got to
So
do it.
I'm curious to see where I fit.
You got to do it. I think with the thing about the Enneagram, I love the test, but kind of like the box and the boundary thing I mentioned earlier is don't put
Mm,
yourself in a box. I'm a,
yeah.
test results say I'm a 7 wing 8.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm not going to put myself in a box because that's not who I am. But I have a better understanding of some of the things that has formed Dave
Mm-hmm.
Wan to who he is today, and some of you know the things that might get my attention versus not. But
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, I think it's important to kind of lay that box down and be who you are and explore and try new things versus being contained in something that you may not be. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the right way. You framed it in the right way. That, and I think it's one of the reasons I've personally avoided a lot of these assessments is I worry that it's going to limit me. But I think to your point, it's really understanding sort of why you respond in certain ways, what drives you, triggers, things like that, and then using that as knowledge and ammo to break out of that and do something different. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Lindsay Dowd just joined us.
Oh,
Thank
what's
you,
up,
Lindsay.
Lindsay?
So good to see you. Welcome to the party. And our party, actually, I'm looking at our time here. We've just been going on and on. Our time is coming to a close. And so I want to ask two more questions, one of which is, what is it that you want to be remembered for?
Um, I just want to be remembered as um, I'm a follower of Christ. I want to
Mm-hmm,
be remembered for that. I want to be remembered for being a faithful and devoted husband. I want to be remembered for being a great, influential father, loving father.
mm-hmm,
And I also want to be remembered for being a loyal and faithful and caring friend. All the
mm.
work that I do is great, but none of that matters to me if the four things I just mentioned don't check the box. So those are the things I want to be remembered for, nothing else.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty darn good list, Dave. I appreciate that. So, in closing, is there anything that you've got upcoming? Any way people that are listening can support you, or connect with you, or help you on your mission and your journey to help more people?
Yeah, so this is breaking news actually, and
Mm, you heard it here first.
I've been working on this for about 5 months in the background, and a few conversations with people in my circle. Jason, I need
Hmm.
to give you a call, but a few conversations with people that I've had kind of confirmed what I've been working on in the background is I'm going to niche down. So I used to focus on providing a service to organizations and the workforce as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while that's important and everybody needs it and da 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 da, I'm going to niche down to focusing on high performing and high functioning sales teams,
Mm-hmm.
because those individuals are the very individuals like the 91% I just talked about that bring that financial stress from home to work with them, and it really impacts their ability to be the best salesperson they could be. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
having like a tremendous scarcity mindset that's deeply rooted and hardwired in your brain from your upbringing. That's on the personal side, but now you're bringing it to work as a
Mm-hmm.
salesperson on the business side. And
Mm.
those dynamics will be very interesting and uh, very hard to navigate once you start to include other people in that conversation. And it's going to really show up how you present yourself and how you sell stuff and how you navigate conversations and kind of go through the sales cycle with the clients and the prospects that you work with, right? And so breaking news, that's looking to niche down even more and focusing on high functioning sales teams for companies across the country.
That's awesome. Well, Dave, you'll have to come back and tell us how that's going and what new things you're learning. And I wish I had. I've got a little scroller here, but we don't have the breaking news kind of icon or logo there. But I appreciate you sharing that with us. And we're a little bit over time, so I want to thank you for, first of all, thank you, Dave, for being here. Thank you for sharing yourself, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you so much to everyone who tuned in and is watching. I really appreciate that. Anyone who missed it, this is going to be available on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook for all eternity. So go out and enjoy it. And I just mentioned I give a shout out to Lindsay. So here's another shout out. Our next show is going to be Thursday, October 3rd, when my special guest will be Lindsay Dowd, host of Heartbeat for Hire, a founding member of the Bold Leaders Collective, and co-founder of Sell Me Your Story, amongst many other things. And so I'm sure we will hear all about that on our next show. So with that, I will say thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Dave, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dave. Bye-bye.